What can I do to get my kids moving? No waiting in line, no standing around waiting for a turn, everybody moving, everybody participating, everybody experiencing some degree of success during that short time period. Because you're not only trying to develop a healthy body in your children, you're trying to develop a mindset that craves physical activity. And that's why I said during the brain break this morning that, you want to try to start getting creative and think, how can I build activity into the various parts of my day? The activity that we will do during the next break that follows this session is showing you how you can use movement to teach just some fundamental literary skills. And you can do that with math. You can do that with social studies. I mean, the sky's the limit. Once you start thinking through that tunnel of, okay, how can I teach this? And think about how many hyperactive kids you have in your classroom. How many kids that learn best by doing, learn best by feeling, touching, moving. We're not all visual or auditory learners, and as teachers, we're supposed to hit all of those learning styles so that we are reaching all of the children. So those are kind of my goals for you today. Did everybody receive the handout? Is there anybody that does not have one? If you don't have the PE handout, it was handed out this morning right before I did the brain break. I think that you probably have some extra ones over there.
They're all out.
Oh, they're all out somewhere. Okay. Well, if you ended up without one, then just grab somebody and have them Xerox a copy for you, because everything we're going to do today is here. So I don't want you tied to the handout. I don't want you to think, oh, I need to take notes on what we're doing. No, I want you participating with me, because you will learn more through that. Now, the good news is, good news, bad news, depending on how you look at it. As a PE teacher, I look at it as good news. We're going to go outside. And we're going to do our activities outside, most of them. Because then, guess what? We can take off our masks. Because if I am having you move and huff and puff in here and you have the mask on, it just becomes even that. I have a tendency towards claustrophobia anyway, and so then to be breathing heavily with a mask on is tough. It's tough. So the very first move we're going to make is just out here into the hall, the corridor that has the tables along it. So if you would just stand and come with me. I won't ask you to get single file behind me, but please come. We did not do the continuity drills, which is a combination. It's a fitness drill where you alternate an exercise and jumping rope in place. For children that I highly recommend that you get jump ropes that fit every child in your school. Best way to measure is you have them step in the center of the rope, you pull the handles up, handles should come about to their armpits. Okay? If you've got a tall child and they only come to here, they're going to have a hard time. They're going to trip because the rope's too high as it's going under their feet. And vice versa, if it's too long, it's very difficult also. But with the continuity drills, you can either have them jump in place, start out with like a 15-second timing, where they jump in place for 15 seconds, and it's going to take some kids a while. With your kindergartners, your young ones, teach them to jump rope in motion. It's very hard to teach a kindergartner how to jump in place, but if you throw the rope over your head, step through it. Throw the rope over your head, step through it. Throw the rope over your head, step through it. They will get it. And at my little school in Tempe, our whole school, kindergarten on up, well, we even had pre-K. All of them, were able to have success with jumping rope. Another way that you can jump rope, and that is you put both handles in one hand. I call it helicopter. It's also kind of like a lasso. But you remember the old skip-its where you put the thing around your ankle and then, so it's like that. So I'm jumping in place, but I don't have to coordinate it over the top of my head. I can do it this way. So for the continuity drills, you can do either. You can teach both, so they have that flexibility. And then the games that we didn't play, Turtle Shell Tango. Super simple. You get, I'll show you. Paper plates. Get as many, at a minimum, as many as you have children that you're going to play the game with. but you can have double if you want. You just use a Sharpie, score the bottoms of them. This is the turtle shell. This is the underbelly of the turtle. You use your back-to-back activity, where you have your children get back-to-back in partners. And this time, you split them. It's an excellent way to make teams without 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You know, it's just back-to-back with your partner. Okay, tallest person of the two, of the pair, you're over here. Shorter of the two, you're over here. So all the shorters, all the tallest. Or maybe it's birthdays doesn't work so well because you could have two people very close the same. So, you know, I would just, I know what I do. My sorting activity is this. So you have Statue of Liberty. So between you and your partner, you have 5 seconds. One of you is going to be the Statue of Liberty. The other one's going to go down on one knee. That way it's not related to height, so then you're not like stacking one team, you know, with more tall people on one team or whatever. So you have two teams. The handout explains it. But you lay these out, half of them shell side up, half of them underbelly up. When you say go, you give each team a task. Snappers, it's your task to turn over any turtles that you find like this, turn them right side up. Boxers, it's up to you. If you see them right side up, you're going to flip them. And you just, you know, it's kind of like what we just did out there with the hoops and the foam squares. It's an exercise in futility, basically. But then, you know, you just time them for a certain period, and then you see who was more successful. We don't have winners. We just want to see who was more successful in fulfilling their task. You know, you count. Well, so you count after the time is up, because they're not picking them up. They're just flipping them.
Okay, I see.
And this is on my DVD, so you'll be able to see it there. Yeah. And rock, paper, scissors, I won't even take time to explain that, but yeah. Yes. I have, after years of just selling lesson plan packets, I realized, back to the old thing of PE being a foreign language, if I give you a packet of activities, but you still don't have the orientation to it in your head, reading about it isn't necessarily going to help you. So I went ahead and I made DVDs. Wow. And everything that we covered today and things that we did not cover today are on the DVDs. They come, there's an hour and a half worth of activities on these. Again, they're divided into the 3 segments: the warm-up, boot camp, and fun and games. And then you have a teaching manual, which gives you extra information, but it also gives teaching learning objectives, so that as you're meeting standards and things, you know, that there's a method to your madness. You're doing it because it does such and so. You're wanting the children to do this and that. So I brought a whole bunch of them with me today. They're available to you at a discount for being here. I will also, and Ruth can take care of this, that during this first semester, if you didn't come prepared today to pay for them, I will extend the discounted price. Just be sure you leave with an order form, because you need to have, it's a paper, it's old school, paper order form. And if you send that in to me so that I see that it has the discounted price listed, I will honor that through December 1.
Could you just tell them how much, Debbie?
Yes. So pre-K through 2, each of these at the discount, $45, $45. Okay?
Thank you, Debbie.
Sorry. So that's all I have for this session, but then we need to do the thing, right? The literary thing? Or do you want to say something in between?
Could you just, because this is all break, we kind of lost our break time, but could we just do a short 3-minute break?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean.
Oh, me?
Yes, you. Yes.
Oh, me? Oh, okay.
A break.
Yes.
Literary break.
So one of the things that I was involved with a grant project through Middle Tennessee State University, where we were delivering an activity program to children in rural schools. But the people who wrote the grant decided, we would like to have a literary focus to your movement. So I'm like writing now curriculum that is delivering literary concepts through movement. So let me just show you an example of the one we were going to do today. You could use your whistle mixer to divide your class up into equal groups. I would have each group stand in a single file line with a hula hoop in front of the first person. By the way, if you don't have money for hula hoops, but you have jump ropes or clothesline, make a circle with your jump rope and put it on the ground. I mean, hula hoops are handy, but you know, if the budget doesn't allow right now, I would put this on my wish list, but you know, if you don't have it, that's okay. So here's, let's say we have 2 groups and we have 4 people in each line, all right? So just imagine them back here. Then down at the other end of your activity space, you're going to lay out, well, first of all, you're going to use 2 cones, and I'll just do it in this tiny little space here. You're going to use 2 cones spread far apart to be your end line. This is where they're going to come to. And so you put one at this end and you put one wherever, however much space you have down there. Then you're going to take another cone. Nice if you have one that's a different color. Doesn't have to be, but you're going to put this one dead center. Then you're going to, and I made all these flashcards for you, and we don't even get to use them. Oh well. Our literary concept for today was compound words. So we explained to kids what a compound word is. It's 2 separate words joined together to form a new word with a different meaning. So what you do, and on the handout, I've given you a link that has like 500, I think, compound words. I just put together, I think, like 45, 46, something like that. You take the first word of each compound word, and you put it in black, and on the back, you put a number 1. The second word that forms the compound word, you put in red. And I like this size index card rather than using the smaller ones. So now down here on my line, I'm going to lay out all my first words, but I'm going to put them face down so that the number 1 shows. And then on the right side of my center cone, I'm going to put all my the second half of the compound word spread out so that we're not clumped. You know, so we've got the number 1s here, and we've got the reds. So let's talk about our people down here. When on the signal to go, first person in line is going to jog down and pick up a number 1 card, and no peeking. Don't look at what's on the other side, just pick up a number 1 card. So they've got it in their hand, they go back to their group. All right, let's see. Manny, can I use you as my volunteer?
Sure.
Okay, so I come back here, Manny's next in my line, so I'm going to grab his hand or his wrist. Together now, we're going to jog back down again, and Manny, we're going to look at this word, it's yard. And so then he's going to look through all these words and find a word that would make a compound word using yard as the first word. Probably the very last one that I left, right?
Yeah.
So now he's got the stick, I've got the yard, and we run back. Meanwhile, everybody that's in line waiting while we're jogging is jogging in place, because we want them to have activity too, right? So we take our word and we put it down here so it's facing our line, and we say, oh, what is it? It's yardstick. So now we are going to spell it out loud. It's called a skier jump. So I'm just going to use this cable. We're going to go Y-A-R-D-S-T-I-C-K. But each person in the line will be doing their own skier jumps and spelling it, okay? Then the 2 of us, we go to the end of our line, and the next person in line runs down and gets a number 1 card, grabs the hand of the next person, and you go until all your cards are gone. And so you're just making a bunch of compound words. So.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Yeah, very rich, very rich. Physical activity lies at the heart of students' brain activity. And the more we can have their brain and the blood moving through their brain, you can see how beneficial that is. So thank you for driving all the way up from Tennessee.
You are welcome, my pleasure.
To do this, just to do this. And I wish we could spend the rest of the day just thinking of more ways we can make learning connected more to physical activity. Adam and Eve were placed in a garden, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't just be like in one spot.
Had to move.
That was their field of study.
Right,
So thank you so much.
exactly.
Do we mine directly from you then? Is that how it works?
Yes, yes. I have a website, but I do not have the ability to give you a discount on the website. All my contact information is on the last page of the handout, but, you know, it,
And the other
Yes.
forms, are they over here?
yes, and,
Could we pass them?
yes, and tell me what, you go for another hour and then you're done?
Well, yeah, and then they.
Right, so I mean, but should I stay around for that, because I don't want to cut into your time?
It's good for
Yeah, we have All right, so Emily and, if you need a form, just raise your hand.
Yes.
If they can pay now, you have with you, right, so you can provide. it to
Yes,
them.
yes, I
But
have-
she's
I
gonna
have
stay
enough
around.
here.
She's
I have
gonna
enough
be
here
here.
for-
We can get started in March.
For a number of you to get them.
There you can have a seat here, you can relax. Everything else, whatever you need to do.
Okay. Oh.
Save one for us.
Okay, do you guys feel a little more refreshed? Yeah, that's so good. I'm really thankful that this is all on Wednesday. I'm kind of in the middle of the week, like when we're just like, ah! But PE and music and art, I was thinking as I was sitting there, well, and then as I was doing the activities that Debbie designed for us, yeah, sometimes these are the things that we say are optional, right? But imagine just having the other things without PE, music, and art. And I think today was just a good reminder for me of how refreshing it is to move our bodies, to be creative. So even like Debbie just did with that language arts activity, we don't have to necessarily build a brain break time into the schedule like separately from everything else, even though that's great too. But when we incorporate it into our subject areas, wonderful. So art. We all are art teachers. Actually, is there anybody who has a volunteer come in and do art? Oh, okay, that's awesome. So this really then is something that, kind of like what Carol said earlier, something that you have assistance with, but that you're still overseeing and hopefully enjoying with the kids. In multi-grade, I'm always trying to think of projects that can work with all ages, or at least as big of a span of ages as possible. So when Callie and I were planning for art, we were thinking, what could we do that works across the grades? And a few years back at LIFT, which is like lifestyle improvement for teens that we do here in Michigan for 7th and 8th grade, they had an art breakout, and the art teacher came in and did this project, and I had 2 of my students that were in that breakout, and they showed me their projects, and they were beautiful. And I said, this would be so awesome to do at school. Do you think it would work with the different ages that we have? And they said, oh yeah, they could do that. So they came back to school and they taught it to the whole school. And they did such a good job, and that is the project that we will be doing today. It is a project that hopefully you'll enjoy no matter your ability at art, and hopefully you can find some relaxation in it. We'll get started with it, and then we'll talk a little bit more about art options for your classroom or school, and then we'll finish it. Maybe you've done this project before, but this project involves watercolor paper and watercolors, and there's a number of different ways to do it. So there's a number of different links on this slide so that you can choose from those. But hopefully your painting will look something like this. I'll try to find the picture on my school Facebook where my kids have theirs. Okay, so in just a minute, we're going to get our supplies. You should already have a cup of water and a small watercolor palette with a small brush at your table. What you don't have at your table that you will need is masking tape, and if you want a different size of brush, there are different sizes up here. Also at one point, you may want some salt for your watercolors. So in just a minute, when I say go, I'm gonna ask you guys to get your tape first, and then if you want different brush sizes, then you can come up here. Oh, and we'll just have to pass around the salt because there were just, we just have 2 salt containers, but we can share. Okay, so the masking tape. The masking tape is in 2 different places. If you look back to the facilitator table behind you there, on this end, closest to the lobby, there are shorter pieces of tape, of masking tape. And those shorter pieces are going to be for these shorter ends of the paper, and you're going to use the shorter pieces of masking tape to tape the paper to your table. When you tape it, you're going to overlap the tape just a little bit because what you're doing is creating a border right here, okay? So number 1, you're anchoring the paper to your table, but you're also going to create a clean edge border so that, whoops, I need to move it over, so that when you're painting with your watercolor, it doesn't go all the way to the edge. So feel free to choose like how thick you want the border, okay? So those are the short pieces. You're gonna need, obviously, 2 per person. And then on that end of the table, closer to the fireplace, there's the longer pieces of tape. There wasn't quite enough room to do all of the longer pieces of tape there, so we also put longer pieces of tape in this adjoining room, and you could just go through that door to the other room to get the longer pieces of tape. So how many pieces will you need? 2 short, 2 long, and then you will need 3 more long pieces. So there's a bunch of tape on those tables in there. So take 5 long pieces and 2 short pieces. The other 3 long pieces are going to be used for the tree trunks eventually. So when you get the tape, there's this direction on here that says, please stick the tape to your clothing to tame the stickiness. I forgot to do that. If you tape it on the paper before you tape it on your clothes, then when you take it off of the paper, it has a tendency to pull the paper with it, and so it will possibly tear off your paint and paper, and yeah, and I forgot to do that. So please make sure you, just stick it on you and then pull it off. Do that a couple times. So when you get your tape, you might just want to, stick it on your pants or on your shirt as you're collecting it when you go through. That'll be an easy way to transport it. All right, you guys can go back to the back. Remember, short this end, long at that end in the other room. Thanks.